Hello everyone, good morning. Thank you, Mr. Inka, for the introduction. I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to um, have a platform where I can share some of the things I've learned in the course of my career and all of that. Today we'll be talking about half a loaf of bread, and I will be going through the maximization of limited resources for wealth diversification and multiplication. Um, the honest truth is that if you go on the internet, there's a lot of information about investments, about products, and a lot of other things. So what I will try not to do today is go through things that you can easily find on the internet. What I want to try and do is talk about actionable steps, talk about my own experiences, talk about um, things, practical steps that can actually help us in our day to day lives. And I want to take you back to everything that's happened this year. We've seen, the cash scarcity, we've seen fuel price hikes as a result of the fuel subsidy that was removed. We've seen the government and CBN liberalizing the exchange rate market, which has led to an increase in the dollar prices, and all of that. All of these issues have led to inflation. There's been increase in the prices of food items, transport costs has gone up, and it's just been tough. These issues have reduced consumers' disposable income and purchasing power. So you begin to realize that the amount of money you could spend before on your daily expenses and all of that is no longer enough. I think which is part of the reasons why we put together this webinar. Um, so it just essentially means that we need to start doing things differently. We need to start maximizing our money more than ever before. And it's no longer permissible to lose money due to wrong investments, lose money, due to Ponzi schemes and the likes. We need to be able to make the most use of any disposable income that comes to us. So those are some of the things I will be trying to shed light on today. Before I start, I want to read out this quote. It's called the Wilson's Law, and what it essentially says is that if you prioritize knowledge and intelligence, money will continue to come. And when I saw this quote, what just came to my mind was the fact that in I see investments as a journey. I see investments as a way of life. It is not, it doesn't have a starting point and an ending point. It's something that should become, transgenerational. So it may start with you, or it could have started with your parents and your forefathers and all of that. But it's something that each and every one of us, I believe, looks to also pass on to our children, and they to their own children and all of that. And for that, I believe that you cannot take away the place of knowledge. And because knowledge is like, you can never know everything. So it's something that you need to continue to build on. You need to continue to um, ensure that you don't stop learning. You don't stop looking for the knowledge that you require to be able to, um, you know, boost your investments, to be able to do better in your investment planning, your investment journey, and the likes. So the throughout my presentation or my talk, I'm going to be making a lot of reference to knowledge, because based on my own personal experience, I realized that without knowledge, you will always make mistakes. You will always um, lose money. And the fact is, even when you know, even when you have this knowledge, sometimes you would still lose money, but you will be able to bounce back better than if you were working without the required knowledge. So I want to take us back to our childhood, how we grew up, because I also find out that I've also found out that a lot of times the way we grew up, the our parents' disposition to finances, to investments, also have a role to play in how early a lot of us are able to start our investment journey. How comfortable you are with money, your ability to create a savings plan, and your attitude towards investing more often than not can be determined by your childhood, watching how your parents dealt with finances and the effects they had on you, how it has influenced your appetite for risk and all of that. I don't know if you remember hearing things like money doesn't grow on trees, save the pennies and the pounds to take care of themselves, and all of that. These sort of sayings, these sort of things that you learn from childhood essentially or usually it acts as an early conditioning that can affect your relationship with money and the kind of risks you are willing to take in your financial decisions. I remember for me, the first person that taught me about investments was my mother. From way back then, when I was young, I was taught not to spend all the money that I got. It doesn't matter if it was a gift, it doesn't matter if it was, my allowance in school and all of that. For some reason, I'm never able to spend all that I get. And this was because of how my mom had conditioned my mind. She taught me about investments in shares. I remember when we were young, and she used to buy shares, used to invest in shares. And I remember that I had started investing in shares when I was in the university. Back then, I remember prior to 2008, when we had a capital market crash, I remember that a lot of companies were in the market issuing, monies through shares. And I remember that I had invested in Orlando way back then. I think I probably spent all of my um, allowance investing in shares. I put about 5,000 in Orlando shares. But because at that time the capital market prices, share prices in the capital market had gone up, they were really high, and Orlando probably was trading at above 100 naira at that time. Then the 2008 capital market crisis came, and guess what, guys? I lost all of my money. Up till today, I do not believe that Orlando has, and this was what, over 10 years ago. I'm not sure Orlando is trading anywhere close to 100 naira. So I've not been able to recoup that investment or even get my money out. Do I regret it? No, because I highly doubt that there's anybody that will never lose money. But the idea is that you learn from your mistakes and then you do better, right? So when I finished university, NYSC, I remember that I came back home with a savings of about 40,000 naira. And for me, this is a big deal because our monthly allowance at that time, if I remember correctly, was between 8,000 and 9,000 naira. So at that time, I believe that money still had better value. But even at that, I was living outside Lagos. I was in Osun State at the time. I had to pay for rent, feeding, everything. But I still came back home with about my 5 months' salary because I had been conditioned from an early age not to spend all my money. Okay. And then going on to getting a job, I started, my job in the banking industry. And I remember that from as early as, my first year working, I organized an investment club. It wasn't anything special. It's something a lot of us are familiar with that is called a job. That's contribution. Okay. So I got some of my friends together. I remember we used to contribute or put together part of our salaries on a monthly basis, and everybody used to take turns in collecting um, the bulk of the money. This was something that I started way back as soon as I started work because it was just something that I was used to, or I thought that would help in being able to put together bulk money that you can then invest. After that, after some years of working in the bank, I was then moved to the treasury unit of the bank. I'm not going to go into what the treasury does, but suffice it to say that when you work in treasury, you learn a lot more about investments. So I was able to learn about more products that I could put my money in that could give me better returns. Of course, we all know that contributions does not give you returns. It only helps you to probably save money, right? So as I was saving this money, I then started learning from my work in treasury how to invest, the kind of products that were available for me to invest in. Um, I learned about investing in treasury bills, investing in bonds. Those are the federal government instruments that people can invest in, and you get your returns. And I remember at a point in time, a 1 year treasury bill investment um, was giving a return of as high as 18%. I think in my over 15 years career, that was the highest rate that treasury bills traded at. So imagine that you had maybe 100,000 naira, 500,000 naira, and you were earning 18%. That was a good time. That's a time that I probably would never forget. And the good thing about government securities was the fact that they have the lowest um, risk, right? So it was easy. Your mind would be at rest and so on and so forth, and that was really helpful. All of these things helped me in my investment journey. Basically, you are never too young to learn about investments, and the reality is the responsibility to build, an investment culture to lay a foundation for your future generations, or that your future generations can leverage on. That responsibility rests with each and every one of us. Our parents may have done a good job, some of them may have not given us this foundation, but you knowing all this today, you having access to this information today, it behoves of you to then do better. Okay. Again, I'm just going to digress a little bit and say that why laying a foundation for your future generations is important is because my experience in my years of working, this is just an aside, right? I realized that people whose parents were well off, were well to do, and then came to the bank or anywhere generally, any organization to work, they did not have that pressure of, oh, if I lose this job, that's the end for me. Oh, I'm a breadwinner for my family. If I lose this job, it's going to affect, my family. For me, because I did not have that foundation, it affected me in the sense that I couldn't afford to lose my job. So I was always, you know, tensed. It put me in a position where any little threats, from the company or by the company, or when people talk to you and say, if your appraisal is not good, we can send you away, and things like that. You just begin to fear, you begin to shake, because you know that this is all you have. If you don't get another job, then it's going to be a problem. But I realized that children that were from well off and well to do families, they didn't have that care, they didn't have that fear, right? They could care less if you sack them or not, because they know that their next meal is not coming from their salary. And I think what he also did for them is that, at least for those of them that were investment conscious, they were able to save more money for investments than those of us that we first of all had to think about, our siblings, paying our siblings school fees, taking care of the home front before we then thought about investing. And another thing that it also affects is maybe people's ability to say, you know what, I want to further my studies, I want to travel abroad for my studies, and all of those things. And I'm just generally saying, if possible, do better for your children, do better for the people coming after you, so that they are able to have opportunities that you did not have, right? Okay, we're going to briefly talk about investment management, right? And I'm not going to bore you with definitions and all of that. What we mean by managing your investment is just essentially making sure that you do your research. You do your research about the investments, about the different investments that are available, really, and then selecting the ones that you are most comfortable with, building a portfolio, monitoring that portfolio, ensuring that adequate risk management is put in place to make sure that that portfolio performs optimally and all of that. And I'm just going to focus a little bit on what I call the 3 P's of investing: purpose, plan, and patience. Purpose is, honestly, for before I go into this, I want to highlight something. There are several factors, or some factors, that each and every one of us need to always consider before we start building an investment portfolio. And the first thing I would highlight, the first factor I would highlight is age. So a lot of us are at different, stages of our lives. Where, depending on your age, you need to understand that the kind of investments that a parent can put in place for a child, or maybe you are already a young adult, you just started working and all of that, the kind of investment you can put your money in is different from the kind of investment that a child can, an investment portfolio that a child can have. Then somebody that is, for instance, maybe in their 40s, or are already working towards retirement, the kind of investments that they can also put their money in is different. So that's why I keep emphasizing knowledge. You need to, there are a lot of things actually that you could always need to consider before building your investment portfolio, based on your age, based on your long-term plans. What are your long-term goals? What are your long-term plans, right? Where are you at the moment? Are you a young executive whose main focus at the moment is to further their education? You want to go to school abroad and all of that. Your focus at that point in time would be probably saving or investing in low risk products that can help you put together your school fees and living expenses and all of that. So each one of us are at different stages in our lives. We have different goals. So all of these things should come into place when you are building an investment portfolio. Then we also need to understand or have a good knowledge of economic cycles, or maybe I would say always consider what the economy is doing before you put your money in investments. There are some times that the economy is booming, right? And in those periods, everybody is happy. More often than not, you don't even need to do a lot before you make money. Why? Because the stock market could be, so active. Prices are just going up every day. You can easily put your money in today, and in the next maybe 1 month, the market is still going up. Sometimes the market keeps on going up for maybe months, even sometimes a whole year. So in those periods, there are quick wins. You can put your money even without doing a lot of research. You can put your money and then get your returns and all of that. But there are downturns in the economy as well. And the danger there is that sometimes these economic cycles change so quickly. It changes so quickly that if you do not know the exact time or the right time to come in and go out, then you could be caught when the cycle is changing. And so you need to have a knowledge of economic cycles. Somebody will ask me, how do you do that? You need to listen to the news. You need to know what is happening, particularly in your country, right? So, is a new president being sworn in, you know that as he's being sworn in, he's going to come in with his own different economic agenda, with his own different political agenda, all of those things. And so what that does is that things will change. Whatever changes are made will affect certain sectors of the economy. And if it's going to affect it negatively, you don't want to be caught in that. So you need to always, stay abreast of the news. Government policies. What are the policies that the government is putting in place? What are the things that are changing, in the economy? For instance, fuel price. When the fuel price went up, or should I say, when fuel subsidy was removed, there were some sectors that were positively affected. There were some sectors that were negatively affected. You need to understand that, and then you need to align your investment portfolio, particularly if you're investing in things like shares, stocks and shares. You need to align your share or stock portfolio to those sectors that are positively affected, right? When the exchange rate liberalization happened, or should I say the exchange rate went up, those sort of things affect, for instance, that affected the consumer goods industry, right? Because the for a lot of companies that import raw materials and the likes, they now buy um, foreign currency at a much higher rate, which means that it has become the cash that they have to buy or to import those raw materials can no longer buy the same quantity that they used to buy before. And so what that does is they need more naira to buy dollars, right? And what that also means is that for people like you and I, peradventure they are even able to buy the same quantity of raw materials they used to buy before. They will be buying it at a more expensive rate, right? And so what that means is they are going to be passing on the cost of that increase. They're going to be passing it on to people like you and I. We are the end users, okay? And so all of those things, you need to understand that. And then you also need to understand yourself as a person. What is your risk appetite? Do you have appetite for are you a low risk appetite? Is your appetite for investments a low risk? We have low risk, we have medium risk, and then we have high risk. So you need to understand the spectrum where you fall into and ensure that all your investments around are in products that are either low risk, medium risk, or high risk, so that it won't be a situation where you've put your money in a product that you don't have a risk tolerance for, and then you begin to have palpitations or you begin to struggle to sleep at night. So you need to understand um, all of those things. Okay, so I'm going to share a bit about my story again, just so I can um, relate with everybody, because I know that on this journey we all have our different stories. So I'm going to be sharing a bit of mine as well. I remember um, a long time ago, back then when I started work over 15 years ago, I used to think that 5 million was a lot of money at that time, and it probably was, given um, the fact that the value of 5 million at that time is different from what it is today. And so that was my focus. My first financial goal was to hit a target of 5 million. To me, I thought that once I had that money, it would remove that fear that I always had of, oh, what if I lose my job today? Or even if I choose to resign, right? How much do I think that I can have, either in cash or in investments, that I can live on for a few months before I could get another job? And so I decided on 5 million. Okay. But my salary was just 100,000 per month at the start of my career. And so 5 million at the time looked like a daunting task to me. But I hit that target. I can't remember how many years it took me. But I hit that target eventually, and I had 5 million in investments, probably maybe 5 years after I had set that target or something. I was able to hit it. And then guess what? The bank then decided they were going to issue right issues. Right issues is selling shares to existing shareholders of a company. Um, okay, and what they had done was to give all of the staff, they gave all of us targets. And then, funny, somehow that period coincided with um, our appraisal, our appraisal period. And so the next thing we were told is, oh, for those of us that were up for promotion, if we did not meet the target that was set for us to sell the amount of right issues that we needed to sell, we were going to lose our promotion. My target was 5 million. And so at that time, I didn't know anybody. I didn't know how to market. I didn't know, I wasn't a salesperson. I was a back office staff, you know. I didn't know who I could go and meet to sell shares of 5 million to them. And I did not want to lose my promotion. So what did I do? I took all of my savings, I split it between my family members. I put it or I bought shares in their names, because I didn't want to buy in my name. I didn't know if that was going to count towards meeting the target. So I bought in my mom, my brother, etc., and all of that. And that was how I was able to get my promotion that year. At that time, it looked like maybe um, it set me back, like the money is now in shares. I don't have savings anymore. I felt like I had to start again. But the reality is, the rights issues were mine, the shares were still mine anyway. And what did I do? I left the shares. I left the shares. I moved on from it, because and the at that time, the price that the rights issue was sold for was actually higher than what the same shares were trading at in the market. So it was almost an automatic loss if I had wanted to sell those shares after getting my promotion, so that maybe I could get my cash back. I couldn't, because it would have been at a loss. So I kept those shares for years and years. But guys, guess what? I started getting my dividends on those shares every year. As the company declared dividend, my dividends would come in, my family members would transfer it to me, and I just realized that those dividends were coming. A lot of times they used to come at a time when I really needed the money. And so I started saying, okay, this makes sense. I think this works for me. I would rather just keep the shares, just know that this is a form of investment, and then get my dividends. And of course, I already had other shares by this time. And I think this also encouraged me to start buying more shares because I started enjoying how the dividends were coming in. So I started doing that. 2023, I think this was probably maybe 8 to 10 years ago. 2023, or let me say from maybe 2022, the stock market in Nigeria started going up. Prices started going up until July, I believe. Prices were going up. I made between 100 to 150% profits on those shares. When I eventually decided to sell them this year, I made 100. So so that means that my 5 million then became 10, 10 million, 12 million thereabouts. And I had already gotten dividends on them for all of those years. I say this to say that we will get to a point where I will be talking about, or let me just go there now, where I will be talking about diversification of shares, or even what I had already said earlier, which is that you need to understand your risk appetite. But that being said, even when you've invested in something that you feel like you cannot manage that risk, depending on your goals, if you have a long-term goal, if you have a long-term perspective, and maybe you've invested in something and then the share prices have moved downwards and your portfolio is now a loss, because you have a long-term perspective, do not go and sell those shares. Do not go and take that loss. You need to have a plan. You need to have a plan. You need to know what your purpose is. Do not go and invest in the stock market if your purpose for investing is to pay for tuition and education. Don't go and invest in the stock market if you want to start a business in the next 6 months. You cannot do that, because sometimes it takes the stock market years for your investments to enter into a profit. So back to the 3 P's of investing, you need to have a purpose. Is your purpose for investing to create wealth? Is it retirement? Is it tuition? Are you looking for passive income? Are you looking to start a business in the near term? You need to know what your purpose for investing and saving is. All of these things would determine the kind of investment products that you put your money in. And then after you've understood what your purpose is, then you need to plan. Do not again invest all your money in one investment product, except it has the lowest, it has guaranteed low risk. But you also need to understand that products that are low risk, more often than not, also have lower returns. So you need to be comfortable with that as well. You cannot be looking for high returns and then put your money in low risk investments. It doesn't, hardly, sometimes it does. Maybe for instance, if it's the government selling treasury bills and all of that, and for one reason or the other, they want rates to be high, maybe because inflation rate is high. And usually inflation and interest rates, they have negative correlation. So the higher the inflation rates, the lower the value that your money has. Let me put it that way. So even if you are investing at 18%, but if inflation is at 22% or 23%, the reality is that, because what inflation does, or what causes inflation, is that transport fare, maybe import costs. Sorry guys, my system went off. Import costs, cost of importation, cost of goods and services, everything has gone up. So yes, your returns, you may be earning a return of 18%, but the value of goods and services that that money can buy is lower than what you would have been able to buy when inflation was at maybe 10%. So you need to understand that, okay? Then, after you've planned your investments, chosen the different investment products, then you decide, you also need to decide what um, percentage of my disposable income do I want to put in the different products to make me to give me a diversified portfolio. You need to decide that. That's planning. After that is patience, and patience is where I've said sometimes, especially if you put your money in high risk investments, you need to give it time to mature. You need to give it time to um, for the returns to build up, right? So you need to exercise patience with some investments. It's just like if you plant something at the farm, you need to give it time to grow, to germinate. Um, I need the moderator to let me know um, if I've exceeded my time or if I should continue, so I can know what to do. You have 10 minutes. I have 10 minutes more. Okay. All right. Thank you very much. So we'll go to maximizing your financial resources. Remember that based on everything that's happened, we've established the fact that disposable income, everybody's, including me, disposable income has reduced, right? And so it behoves of us to make the most of what we have at the moment. And I'm happy that Lekon had taken us through his presentation on how to make money, essentially looking for side hustles and things that you can do that will bring money. Because what that then means is that as you are getting the money, then you can start thinking about your investment journey. Okay. So, in order to maximize your financial resources or your disposable income, first things first that I would recommend is to invest in yourself. You need to invest in yourself. You need to have knowledge there, because there's so much that you need to know. There's so many things that you need to learn, that you need to understand in order to make the right decisions, the right investment decisions for yourself. So invest in yourself. And investing in yourself does not have to be expensive. There are a lot of resources online these days. Okay, so if you cannot go to school, of which school does not necessarily teach you how to invest or what to invest in, I would recommend, you know, joining podcasts, join looking for people that have established, that they know what they are talking about, learning from them, looking for podcasts or talks and things that you can learn from, and then also daily news. Any financial news, any economic news, you need to always keep stay ahead of the news. Essentially, it is very important. Then you need to, we've already talked about building your portfolio, having a diversified portfolio. You need to be disciplined because your disposable income has reduced. So you need to exercise more discipline with your spending. You need to find a way to reduce your spending so that you can have more money for investments. Leko mentioned something which I strongly agree with, and that is automating your finances. He talked about how he had given a standing order to the bank or to his company, I don't know who, to always move a certain amount to his parents. You need to automate your finances, right? That also helps you to be disciplined. things like giving the bank a standing order, or doing direct debits, so that a particular amount, especially if you're a salary earner, a particular amount is debited from your account every month and moved into your investment account. All of those things help, so that you don't even need to consciously have to remember that you need to invest. So automate your finances, and then seek professional help when needed. Part of it is this program that you guys have joined today. I'm happy you did, and I'm hoping that you are learning something, okay? Because that's really the essence of why we're here. There are financial advisors that I strongly recommend that you also talk to, right? Um, I will always advise that sometimes, instead of wanting to start your investment journey by yourself, wanting to build your portfolio by yourself, for some people it's better that they start by using financial advisors. Um, Thank you, She Lawyer. You talked about budgeting. Budgeting is here, but because I was rushing, or I am rushing, my time is up. So yes, budgeting is very, very essential. Some other steps that I had wanted to talk about, but I hadn't gotten there, for say practical steps you can take, right? Budgeting. There's something I found on the internet that recommended that you spend 50% of your disposable income on your needs, 30% on your wants, and then 20% on your savings. For me, I do way more than 20% for my savings and investments. But for somebody that is just starting, or somebody that really cannot afford to do this, focus 50% on your needs, 30% on your wants, 20% on your savings and investments. One thing I wanted to highlight, but I don't have enough time to do that right now, is the power of compounding. We should not think that our investment journey is such that we'll continue to invest and then we never enjoy. No. The reason why we always want to start the investment journey early, is so that you will get to a point in time where you can rest, you can retire, and then start to enjoy your money. And that's where compounding comes in. What is compounding? Compounding just generally means that you've invested this amount of money, and then let's say, for instance, maybe on 1 million, at the end of the year your interest is maybe 50,000 or something, and you decide that I'm going to take this 50,000 going into, let's say this was 2023, going into 2024, I am going to add this 50,000 to the 1 million and then invest 1,050,000. That's what is called compounding. And if you keep doing this for 5 years, 10 years, it's how, like, it increases how quickly or how fast you start to receive returns, or you start to get returns on your investments. So it allows you to be able to meet your target way before time. All right, that's the power of compounding, and it is important. It's something that we also need to focus on. I'm going to stop here, honestly, because there's still so much to talk about, but we're out of time. And I guess that we will continue to do this from time to time, so that we'll continue to share and learn from each other, basically. So thank you everybody. Start early, invest wisely, and I'm rooting for you. Take care of yourself. Whatever ideas I'm going to be putting out there is just based on personal experience, not anything professional, okay? This just because this is a recorded event and we need to be careful. So, for somebody between the age range of 18 to 25, I believe that such a person, particularly if you have a mid high risk tolerance, should be able to go all out and, you know, take advantage of so many ranges of products that are available. I would recommend the stock market. I would recommend bonds, mostly federal government bonds, but some blue chip companies also issue bonds and commercial papers from time to time. Those I would also recommend as well. I would recommend buying gold, investing in gold. It could be gold bars, or it could just generally be, gold bars are really expensive. So it could just be gold jewelry. And I love the idea of gold, particularly I think for men and women actually, because you can also for depending on how long you want to hold it for, you can even still be enjoying the use of it while you are holding it, before you sell. Gold, I recommend, I strongly recommend. Property is also something I recommend, right? Um, it could be land, and the beauty of land is that you actually do not have to build. You can buy the land, hold it for a period of time, and then sell. So some people have created a business out of buying and selling of land. So there's so many opportunities. And then there's crypto. I haven't done a lot in the crypto space, and I think the only time I did, I lost money. But if you if you are able to, again, knowledge. So I believe that at that age range, you have enough time to spend maybe learning about crypto, how to invest in it, and so on and so forth. Or, again, as I've said, use a financial advisor. There are lots of um, companies, investment companies that offer mutual funds and different products that people can invest in. Just put your money there. At that age, 18, 25, put your money there. Just do a direct debit. Don't even think about wanting to spend out of that money for the next 5 years. Peace of mind. The stock market can give you peace of mind. But again, remember, I said dividend investing, not trading. There's trading of shares, and then there's long-term investing. Was people are getting carried away because the market before that time was just going up, 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 up. Okay, I don't believe that can happen now again. There's a lot more information. Markets respond more to economic factors, right? Money market does not give you as much returns as the stock market. But again, even in the money market, the reality is that you could find some companies, finance houses, a few, maybe microfinance. There are some companies that actually take, or even banks that take monies and pay high interest rates. But for me, those don't fall under low risk. They probably fall under high risk investments because they are not owned by the government, right? And I wouldn't necessarily call them blue chip companies because they've not demonstrated um, the qualities of blue chip companies. So that investment for me will be considered medium high, right? So I cannot particularly say one market over the other. It requires time, it requires patience, and so on and so forth. Health. The financials will always show you the health of that company. What do they even do? Which business do they do? How are they making this money that they are able to pay this kind of returns? And that's how a lot of people have lost their monies in Ponzi schemes, because they only listen to what their friends are saying, and then they put their money, and it is at that point exactly when you put your own money before you get your own returns, that's when the company then folds up. So those are some of the mistakes we make. We don't do the research before we put our money in those investments. That's actually like the major mistake people make, because even if it is not a Ponzi scheme, right? If you're putting your money in the stock market, for instance, there are different companies in the stock market, right? Some people will say, ah, I only have 1 million naira. If I buy MTN shares are already trading around maybe 150. So the number of shares I'll be able to buy is small. Instead of that, I want to buy the shares of a company that their share price is at 10 naira, or their share price is at maybe 50 kobo. There are companies like that their shares are currently trading, so that you'll be able to get more units of shares, and you think that that way you'll be able to make more money. Yes, that can happen, right? But like I always say, research, research, research. What is the company into, right? Is the company, what kind of products does the company sell? Is it an inelastic product? Is it a product that people will always buy? Are they into food? Everybody, people will always eat even when prices go up. Are they into food? What exactly are they doing? That way you know that the company will be there for the long haul. And then how do they manage money? Are they Is their cash flow strong? If their cash flow is strong, then you know that they will always be able to pay dividends. Some companies don't even pay dividends, actually, or they can just decide in a particular year that they are not going to pay dividends. There's so many factors to consider. So you always need to do your research. Don't say because a blue chip company, the share prices are high, so you don't want to invest in that. You may lose your money. So you need to be very careful. The company is not paying dividend, there's nothing you can do. And if the share price is, I mean, your money is at is honestly, for those sort of shares, is either you forget about it, or if based on where the share price is trading at the moment, you can take your money out, just sell and move on. You've made the mistake already, right? And so you need to start afresh. What I need for a lot for us to understand is this is a journey. In this journey, you are going to make mistakes. The idea is that you learn from those mistakes, and then sometimes yes, I've talked about patience, but there are sometimes when you realize that this was a wrong investment, right? But you still have opportunity to take your money out, even if it's 50%, half of what you put in, and all of that. Once you know that this company is not a company that pays dividend, and that the share prices are not going up anytime soon, seek the advice of a financial advisor. If they tell you to take your money out, take your money out, invest in something else.